What's up, guys? Justin from Real World Strength, and we are back with Technique Talk Thursday. So we are going to talk about running today and next week. Next week we're going to talk about sprinting, but that's just running, but faster. So there are three main tips that I want you to think about when you're running. There is a technique to running, and most people don't necessarily do it correctly without having to think about it. Even when I'm running, I've been running competitively for 15 years off and on. And even when I run, there's still a few technical things that I'm just kind of being mindful of as I'm going down the track or the road or wherever I'm at. So there are 3 points. One relates to the feet, one relates to the hips, and then one relates to your overall stride. All 3 of these are critically important. So for the feet, I want you to think the foot is going to land directly underneath the hips. Think of it like a wheel. So when you have a wheel, it goes around an axle. The axle is always going to be directly above where the rim of the wheel makes contact with the ground. It's the same thing when you're running. I want you to think of like the axle, that's your hips. And the actual rim of the wheel, that's going to be your feet. And you want them to land directly under your body. If they land out in front of you, it's going to be like slamming on the brakes every time your foot makes contact with the ground. It's going to slow you down. And if your foot lands behind your body, you just fall on your face. So foot lands directly underneath the body. Also, I want you to think toe then heel. So there's a common tendency, especially if you have like really thick squishy shoes, for you to like roll from your heel to your toe. And that's not good, and I'll explain why. Apart from the fact that it's going to encourage your foot to land out in front of you, which is slamming on the brakes, you also want to think of it like your foot is an arch, which hopefully you already knew that fact. Now, if you have an arch and you just bang one end of it into the ground a whole bunch of times, it's going to put a lot of stress in the middle of it, and eventually it's going to get damaged and eventually break. So that's why you don't want to think slamming your heels into the ground. You don't want to just land on your toes. I want you to think about having your whole foot make contact with the ground simultaneously. What this is going to feel like in practice, you'll feel the toe make contact just a millisecond before the heel does. That way your whole foot is contacting the ground at the same time, and you can just bounce off and just keep going. So that's for the feet. Next, we've got the hips. I just want you to think, use your buns. So another way of thinking about this, lead with your junk. That's what I tell guys. I tell it to girls too, so they figure it out. So if you're leading with your junk, what that's going to do is going to keep you from kind of sticking your butt out and tilting your pelvis forward, which is also going to throw off your whole breathing mechanics. So in addition to that, it's going to emphasize that horizontal propulsion force coming from the glutes that's really important for actually launching you down the track. And lastly, we have your stride. I want you to think about keeping your arms in as close to your body as you can. Keep your arms in and relax, and you're just going to be bouncing from one foot to the other. So you're not like, we're trying to conserve energy here. You want as much energy as possible going into launching you down the track. If you're wasting any energy anywhere along the way there, obviously that's not going to be good, and running is going to be a lot more laborious and just miserable in general from how we want it to be. So now I'll splice in some video to kind of show you all this in practice. So this is just a quick clip of some video I took, just kind of demonstrating running technique. So I'll back it up a little bit. This is frame by frame. So you can see my foot's actually angled down a little bit when it's contacting the ground. So it's toe, then heel, pretty much I'm landing flat-footed, right? You can see the foot's right under the body, and there's the next stride. Also notice how I'm really emphasizing right there, emphasizing that hip extension to propel myself down the road. And arms are staying in nice and tight. I'm not like wasting a lot of energy with my arms, and I'm just bouncing from one foot to the other, landing pretty well flat-footed. So there you have it, nice and efficient running technique. I'll just go through it frame by frame again. Just kind of chilling. Just the way running should be. Nice and relaxing and enjoyable. And that's it. So next time we will talk about sprinting, which is anything but relaxing or enjoyable. Hope you enjoyed it, hope this was informative, and we will see you next week.